Okay, good afternoon. It is Friday, and I am going to show you a little project on the Solaris that you can do. You can do in time for Valentine's Day. You can actually do it on any of your embroidery machines. It's just going to be done totally different. If you have Baby Lock or Brother, I'm going to show you with the IQ My Design Center, and let's just get started. We're going to flip over to the camera. There we go. So we are on the Solaris, and what I'm going to show you how to do is, this little pillow right here. So I think you can see if we set that, this is what I've pulled together and just using some different things within the embroidery machine. Um, you create the 4 different elements separately if you're using letters or, depending on what you're going to be doing. So I'm going to go ahead and just cancel out of this. And the first thing that I did was I went into my embroidery and I chose a letter. Let's see, let's go into we want a nice big letter. So we picked the L for love. And this just working, this can be whatever size you want, but I was working on like an 8 by 8 or 9 by 9 to make a small pillow, or a little wall hanging or something for Valentine's Day. But it's just a great way to get into your machine and play with the different these different pieces. So what I'm going to show you is we're going to take the letter, the L for love, and we're going to set it. And it's 6 by 3.5, so that's obviously way too big. We can size it here. It will let us do some sizing. So let's go ahead and see if we can get this down. It's still let's see, a little bit more. Let's see. Okay, so it's going to let us come down to 3.6. That's a good. That's a good size. The letter L could certainly be whatever size you want. But we're going to touch this little button down here, the little flower button, and what that lets us do is that is going to give us lines on the inside and the outside and let us turn this embroidery letter into another design. So we're going to do the inside and the out, and we're going to touch memory. Memory is going to put it in the shapes in the IQ or My Design Center in your stamp feature. So we're going to go there. If we'll cancel that, we're going to go into the IQ. When we pull this up, we go into the little flower, which was the flower that we were just in. We touch that, and there it is. It's saved as an outline. So we can bring it up, and we can see I've got the outline of my, let's see if we can, let's take the grid off. That'll make it easier for you to see. Okay, so we take the grid off. Now you can see I have the 4 by 4. No, I'm sorry, I have the 8 by 8 hoop. So that's why you see that outline of 8 by 8. So I really need to make this a little smaller. So when you bring it in to your IQ or your My Design Center, it's just outlines. We haven't converted it back into embroidery. So you can change the size. So we can make it just, whatever size you want. So that's a good size to kind of play around with. We're going to tell it okay. We can pick an outline. So you can do a satin stitch or you can do another stitch. So we're going to pick this little star because we kind of like that, and pick a color. You pick a color, you take your bucket, you touch on the line. Now you can't see, but it turned it purple. You'll be able to see the outline when we go to the next screen, but meanwhile there's nothing in the middle, so we want to fill in that middle. So we can pick one of these designs, one of the fancy fills, the mini fills that are in here, and pick a color. You always want to pick different colors as you're going through your steps because if you don't, everything kind of blends in together. That just helps you to have the different pieces and parts. So you just want to have it so that it looks different. And then if we touch the center, well, now you can see there's a design in there. So when we go to next, it gives us lots of options. We'll let that, so now you can see the little purple flower or purple stars around the outside. Well, I want to take that inside and I want to make those designs smaller so that the fill is a little bit smaller on the inside. So now we've got a little lacy fill on the inside. And if we scroll, and that's where you can see that this is what we're working with. If we touch the little button, now you see the stars. That's the outline. So we can take those and we can space them apart a little bit more so they're not quite so scrunched together. All right, so that looks pretty cool. That looks pretty cool there. And you can play around with this as much as you want to. Once you've got it where you want, you're going to set. It's going to convert it to an embroidery design now. And it's going to take you to the embroidery, your embroidery edit screen. Now, at this point, you want to save it into memory, because if you don't and you go out, you will lose it and you'll be starting all over. So we're going to go ahead and save it into memory on the machine. Okay? So we have that one piece. Now, if we want to add the heart, which is what I did, at this point we would go out, we need to create the heart design. So we're going to go back to our IQ or our Mind Design Center. We're going to go to the shapes, and I know that that heart is up here under the odd shapes. Right there it is. So we're going to choose the heart. Okay. Now I want to fill the inside of the heart, but first I need to make it smaller because that's going to be way too big. And if you're not sure what size it is, if you just touch on size, it'll give you the measurements. And obviously, since my letter is, 2, not quite 3 inches tall, well, we got to make this smaller. Again, you can make it as small as you want because it is, it's a line. It's not a stitch. There's nothing to it. It's just a line. So we're going to take that. And once we've got the, you can make it bigger, fatter, skinnier, whatever you want to do. Once you get it where you want it, we're going to take, and this time I want to fill it in. I want the heart filled in. So you can use this right here, and of course the heart's going to be red. And take our bucket, touch the inside, and now I have the red filled in, totally filled in stitch. Okay, so I have that, but I want to, the outline, this time I want to take the outline and I want to make it lacy. I want a little lacy heart design around it. So I'm going to do the heart and take and do a different color. Again, you want different colors just so it makes it easier for you to see what it is that you're doing. So we can do purple. And always the bucket, touch the outside. When I go to next, it's going to bring it up. This gives me a lot of options here. It gives me, you can play around with your density, you can play around with the direction of the stitches if you want to, if you want them outside the box, inside the box. It gives you some different settings right here. So we're going to leave that one alone, but the hearts, when I look at the outline of the heart, it's down there and it actually is coming over the tip. So I want to add a little bit of space here. So I want to space this one out a little bit more. Well, maybe not. And you can test it. If you don't like it, you can go back and you can change it again. That looks much better. It's totally outside. None of the hearts are overlapping. But you can take that and you can flip it. So we could have the hearts on the inside or hearts on the outside. Once that's the way that I want it, I'll set it. It's going to send that over to the embroidery machine, the embroidery side of the machine. Again, you do want to save it in memory because if you don't, you won't have it be able to pull it in. Okay? So we've got that one. At this point, we can go into our pocket, and we have some of the other letters. I've already completed them, so we can go ahead and bring that in. Um, you could go back through and do the same thing with one of, any of these other letters. But we're going to bring the V, and we're going to bring the L. We've got this one right here. Whoops. Okay. So we're going to bring the L in, and we're going to set it. And this is just like our, setting our designs. Then we can add, we can go back in here and we can bring the V and we can set it. You just kind of drag them around, drag and drop. Now this one's a little larger, so we may have to adjust our sizes, or we just make our background design bigger. All right, so now I need the E. So we can add again. And this time, let's go into the letters and let's just pick the letter E. Okay. Now, whenever we do that, look how big it is. We need to edit it and make it smaller. So we can go to size. Now, what I want you to notice on here is when we go to size, some of your machines, you have this little button right here that has, it looks like a zigzag, and it has arrows underneath and off to the side. That is telling your machine to recalculate your stitches. If you don't use that, you are limited. Some of your machines do not have that feature, but your newer ones, your higher end ones do. So when you're going to change the size, you have less limitations. If you touch that button, it's going to just tell you it's going to resort to its original position or original size and angle, and that's okay. We're going to tell it okay. Now it's going to let us make this smaller, and we can decide, look at that, we can decide how, what size we want it to be. If we want it a little bigger, excuse me, or a little bit smaller, you can do that. So now we've got the word love. But they're kind of looking, a little bit off, maybe not exactly the way I want it or the right colors. Well, in our edit, we want to select, and maybe we want to select that heart, and we want to rotate it. Let's rotate the heart. Oh, look, that makes it look even, a little bit more fun. It's off to the side. So we can rotate it. We can move it either with your finger, or you can move it with your arrows. You get it, kind of the way you want this. At this point, you might want to go back and put your lines in. Go back here, and with the grid, you may want your grid lines, because if you turn those on, 3/8 inch is more accurate, and it will let you get, when you touch on each one of these or when you toggle in between, it will let you line them up. So once you get everything kind of lined up and you like the look that you have, I am going to turn that back off because it makes it harder for you to see. Okay, then we want to put them together. Okay, we want them to be together as one embroidery design, because right now, if I touch on any of them and move them, they're not together. So we have this little box right here that has a circle, a square, and a triangle. When we touch on that, and we touch this button, now look, it makes everything pink. So when I do that, I touch the center, and look, it pops my whole design into the center. They're all together. It's one design. So if I go to move it, see, moving, whoops, yep. If you go to move it, now watch, it moves everything together instead of individual. Okay, so we've got that in the center. We can say, okay, well, it looks pretty good. Now, if you want to, you can play around and change the colors. So you can change the colors to whatever you want. So if we were to do that, let's see if we went, you can see each one of your designs, and you can play around with your colors if you want to. Now the other thing we can do is this little button right here. You see the blue with the squiggly behind it. That will let us do our background quilting. So we can not only do the embroidery design, we've created some of the stitches, we can do background stitching. So look at that. We can choose what we want. The default is going to be your whatever you've chosen. Okay, here you can do it as an echo stitch, again depending on the machine that you have. Okay, we've got echo stitching. Oh, that looks kind of nice. That looks kind of nice. Let's just keep it at that. But look how big it is. It's because it's seeing the size hoop, the 10 5/8 by 16. Well, if I want, and it's going to fill, we're telling it to fill the hoop. The only way we can change it, if we want to make this pillow a square, is by changing the size of the hoop. Now, it doesn't matter if you're going to use a bigger piece of fabric or you're going to put it in a bigger hoop. This is the size that you're creating. So we would go and see what happens is when you touch that's 4 by 7, obviously it knows it won't fit. 5 by 7 is not going to fit. Whoops. So you can go either way. 6 by 6, my design doesn't fit. There's 6.5 by 10.5. It's going to recalculate it here. But that's not what we want. It does make you go through one at a time and then stop it. Okay, here's 8 by 8. So that's going to do the echo and just around an 8 by 8. But now, you know, those letters are a little bigger, so maybe I want it to be a little bit bigger. But I do like the idea of it being square. So let's go ahead and do 9.5 by 9.5. All right, so that looks pretty good. I like that. Now, we have a couple other things. We can do the distance, so we can adjust the distance that it's away from the letter. We can also change the spacing so that it's not so close. You know, you can make it as close as you want to, or you can space it apart so that your echoing is a little bit farther spaced. And you can see how it's, you know, around the letters and around everything. You know, that kind of looks good. I like that. But you know, if you want to try playing around with it, just touch one of your other buttons. One, if you go to the stippling, now it's going to change your entire background to stippling. And again, you've got the distance. Now you'll notice that some of the spaces, like in the V and over here on the E, it doesn't fill anything in because it's too small of a space. We can also go over and choose one of the pretty background fills. If we touch select, now you've got all of these different fills that you can use that are built into your machine. And what's really cool here, let's just try this one with the kind of like your crosshatch. It's going to fill that up again. That's going to quilt the background. So it's going to quilt it around your design. Okay. So if you like that, again, you can change the size of it. You can change the distance. Your 9.5 by 9.5. Once you've got everything where you like it, you like the looks, you can tell it okay. You can go on to embroidery. But I would definitely, once you get it to where you want it, hit memory and save it. Now, on some of your machines, if you go to your let's see now, not the layout, it's before that. We have to return. We can, if you notice here, when you look down through, you can see your background quilting. That's going to be your last design. So this is going to go through and it's going to stitch the heart first because that's the order I put it in. Then the LVE, you can change the colors or do whatever you want with them. And then your background stitching is going to be done last. So if we want to do some more editing, we can change our colors. Okay, so we like the red on the heart. The violet on the outside, that looks pretty cool. Maybe we'll just stick with that. If we go down here, we can change that so that it's red as well. Okay, so the fill's red. And then we can change if we don't want to have too many colors. we can change that one. Scroll on down. Now if you're using your Luminaire and Solaris and you're scrolling down, if you touch on that letter, that's not going to let you change the color. You actually have to touch the colors. So that's deep rose. We can change that to red, and if we like that purple, go back to violet. Well, then we've got the letter. What color do we want that to be? Well, you can play around with it. Ooh, since we're doing red and purple, that looks pretty good in purple. Now your background, you may want the quilting background to blend in with the color of your fabric. I would leave it blue just so I could see it, but when I go to do the actual quilting, I would go ahead and not do that. Okay. So, now I've kind of forgotten where I was, but anyway, when you go down through, I would leave the background blue just so it would be easier to see, because if I wanted it to be quilted in white and I change it, look what happens. It's hard. It kind of disappears. It makes it harder for you to see. So, again, your machine doesn't know what color you're going to be using. Just leave it so that it's something that you can see. Okay? So I have an extra line around there because my original hoop was, or my my original background screen was set up for an 8x8 hoop, but I wanted to make it a little bit larger. So we can go ahead and let's see, change our frame size here. Whoops, nope, to whatever size frame you're using. We're using the 9.5. Now you can see that line. That was just a line in the back, so that line is gone. And we're ready to go ahead and go to embroidery. And you're ready to scan your fabric, do your embroidery. This might be some cute places to put some glitter underneath. You could. So there's lots of other things that you can do, but I would just highly, highly recommend that you play with it. So just play with it. Go to your machine, whatever embroidery machine you have. If you've got the smallest one that just has a 4x4 hoop and you would have to hoop it 4 times, you could do that. You could do, if you wanted your design to be that size. If you don't have the fill stitches, you could do applique. You could do embroidery, picking 4 different letters. Or using some other shape for the O in love. It's just lots and lots of different fun stuff for you to be able to do. So I hope that you enjoyed this. If so, please let me know. We'll be doing some more things. We're working with some new software and some new just getting things up and running on YouTube. So we appreciate your support, and we appreciate all of your comments. And just make it a great day. Go sew something, and catch us on Facebook. We're at facebook.com/sewhappy, SEWHAPPY 2016. That's when we purchased the business and started all of this. So you'll find us there. You can become a friend of us if you go to and look for Friends of A&A White on Facebook. Request to be a friend. We love to have friends where you can share tips and hints and root each other on and share your projects. We do monthly challenges and lots of other fun stuff like that. So go sew something and make it a great day.